Paranormal Evidence.
Tonight, see what truly exists inside the world of the paranormal. Inside. Join the discussion and review some of the best paranormal evidence captures from a wide variety of experienced and up-and-coming investigators. See and hear what they capture, where they captured it, and how they captured it. Right now on Entity Voices
Paranormal Evidence.
Good evening and welcome to Entity Voices Paranormal Evidence. I'm Tony Rathman.
I'm Cherie Rathman.
I am Lourdes Gonzalez.
And I am not going to say it that sweet. I am Ron Yacovetti.
That was kind of sweet.
He was, right? Kind of?
Yeah.
I failed.
That works.
I
That
failed.
works. All right, tonight we are going to dive further into something Ron's been doing. Ron and Lourdes have been doing a lot longer than me.
You're crushing it. You're crushing it.
I've been working on it the last 5 months, 6 months, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But we are going to give some demonstrations that have been recently captured, some things we've been working on. We're going to talk about some of the research side, what we think we may have figured out. And we're going to have a great discussion along with some excellent evidence clips.
But before we do that, we apologize to our audience that Chris and Audra is not going to be with us tonight because Chris is in Dallas. And where is Audra?
Audra was unfortunately suffering from headaches.
Oh, hope you feel better.
Yeah, we hope you feel better.
And
we hope.
congratulations being a
Grandparents.
grandparent.
Yes.
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 That's right.
Beautiful baby. God bless. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exciting stuff for Chris and Audra. They are now officially grandparents.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yes.
Officially.
So that's really cool.
Congratulations to Stetson and
Yeah.
Had you not said what's her name, I would have said it right off. But now you made me draw a
Mrs.
blank.
Stetson. Oh,
Yes.
Mrs. Allgood.
Yes. Yes.
We're all
Mrs. Stetson.
Katie Holte, see you this weekend.
Thank you.
Hi, Katie.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Kay. We appreciate it.
Always.
We do.
All right. If I just want to say this off the from the beginning, if you're posting stuff and it's not coming up, it's only me doing it tonight. I don't have the addition of Chris helping either run the show or keep track of the comments. So don't get frustrated tonight if your comments not showing right off the bat. I have a ton of them that have just come in, and for me to actually post them all would keep me from talking and keep the show from going anywhere. But as I was saying, we've got some great stuff to share with you tonight.
Yes.
Ron, Lourdes, Cherie, and I have been working nonstop, doing direct video voice presentations, speeches, as well as our own private research on what's happening, what we think we're getting, how we think we're getting it, and we'll get into all that. But Ron and Lourdes have some clips that they got just this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were at the Colonial Inn, right, in
Concord, Massachusetts. Yeah, it was the Mass Paracon run by Mr. Sam Baltrusis. Great event. Really, really cool collection of people. The place was built in 1716.
Wow.
Was it 1716?
Yep, that's what it said. Remember on the chimney and on the sign?
I thought it was 1717.
Yep, that was either somebody's pin code they got painted on the building, or
It's a beautiful place. You can get lost in there. It's like a maze.
yeah. Yeah, we were there for 2 days and we went through the one door, remember?
Yeah.
We get to our room half as fast as way.
Yeah, it's so weird because it's a part where it's the second floor, and then without steps or making an incline, you're on the third floor. And you know that because if you go on the other side, you do walk up 3 flights of steps. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't figured it out.
But I know that you guys presented and were on Dead Ends, Haunted Hotels, Dead Ends. And looked like you guys were having a ton of success with the DRV. You had Patty Negri in there. You had just a slew of 8 people, I think, were in the room total. Matter of fact, I think I heard that from one of your spirit responses, but we'll get into that down the road.
Indeed, it was fun. We presented it to Ronnie LeBlanc, who's an awesome guy. Him and his wife Amy from Expedition Bigfoot, and then Patty Negri, who was enamored with it. And so when we did Dead Ends, there were 3 rooms everybody was broken up into that they could sit in on the show. And we had a little room with 1 bed and like a desk, and everybody came to our room. It was standing and barely sitting room only.
Yeah, they wanted to check out the direct radio voice. It was pretty cool, and we got good response.
Yeah, we clipped as much as we could. We were supposed to sleep earlier yesterday, but I was like, by golly, we have a show Monday. I'm not letting the wrath down.
We were so exhausted. Seriously,
or else it's just going to be the 2 of us.
Well, I appreciate you going through that effort, and I saw what you have for clips. There's some good stuff there.
I mean, we took the long ride, and we came, and then as soon as we walked through the door, we started working on it.
4-hour ride. We came home, we unpacked some stuff, and we sat down at the computer. The bionic ear here helped me because she knew what some of the stuff we got was, so she found it, and then she filtered it over to me while I worked on the clips.
Yeah, we teeth
That's awesome. Yeah, it always helps when you've got 2. And there's times too that Cherie will hear things that, like, there was a clip. I think I'm going to play it tonight, but I only heard my name. I knew there was something after it, and she comes along, listens to it, and she goes, "It's my name after." And I said, "What?" And she's absolutely right. And after she said it, then it clicked, and I could hear it. But that's the funny thing about any sort of spirit communication is there's difference in hearing, there's difference in, the way they pronunciate and the way they speak. And sometimes you can, because I'll cut a clip and then I'll hear it over and over and over because I'll replay it. And I'll realize there was a ton of other stuff in there too that I never heard the first time. So it's
right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, I think obviously people hear differently, and then men over 50. Not that you and I qualify for that, but if we did, let's say, in the off chance that you and I are over 25, right?
Right.
Our higher frequency hearing diminishes a little bit, so a lot of times she'll hear part of the thing, and I'll hear the other part of it, and it'll be a long message that we did not hear, I guess, individually in its entirety, but then collectively we do hear it. And one of the things that we were telling everybody, and this is part of our mantra now when we explain direct radio voice to people when we were in Massachusetts, is our goal is to eliminate as much as possible the review process. Right. We want the review part of this to become the presentation part of it, because we heard it and had dialogue in real time, which by definition is what ITC is supposed to be. Sinkowski named it for real-time dialogue, not like EVP, record and review. You're always going to get stuff in review, but the more you can do it in real time, and that's what you and I have had powwows. Just the other thing people know, if you and I have been working in tandem,
right?
And that's for me not only an honor, but it's so impressive to be able to bounce this stuff off of somebody who thinks similarly and then differently, and we come to the same goals. And sometimes we're like, Ray, we're on the same path, and sometimes we're like, oh, I came this way, I came that way, but this stuff meshes. So it's been it's been fun just like hashing it out.
And it's been terribly fun for me especially the last month. With one of the tests I performed, and then expanding on that, and we were bouncing around ideas the last couple of weeks, back and forth, and we're going to get to share that with the audience tonight, and we're going to get to talk about what led us down certain paths. And we may have covered bits and pieces of this on other shows, but because it kind of has flown together, and Ron and I have had lengthy discussions on what's next and what we're going to do and try, but Ron's absolutely correct though about the whole point of ITC is it's not like EVP where you listen to your recording and then you hear something that may sound like voice, and then you go through all these steps to try to clean it up, try to get it audible, try to make a little more sense what is said. The whole point of ITC is to have a two-way communication. where you can ask a question, they can give a response, and you just keep the conversation going from there. It doesn't stop. You don't have to go. And DRV is just the most incredible method I know of to do that. So very interesting stuff.
I'm going to try to help with the chat stuff too, whether you put it up or something's not. So, and this is one of the things I love. We have such an astute, educated, and kick-ass audience. Dope knows that perhaps you aren't intended to hear the whole message by yourself. You're meant to do it together with others. That's fascinating, because what I love about that is that that's what we talk about sometimes, that there's more than one perspective sometimes with what we're looking at. And when you're trying to figure stuff out, you got to try to see as many of them as available to be seen. And that's really awesome. That's a great comment.
That's actually a very profound comment, because you and I were just discussing something yesterday about something that was said in a past clip. And, you know, I took it as one thing and you took it as another. And then when we started talking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I think you're right. And you know, it just, so that's a great concept, that sometimes maybe it's not just directed to you, or maybe you're not supposed to hear it, or maybe it's supposed to be a shared message, or who knows, but all that stuff does occur. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's great comment. Thanks, Dope Knows. And a great
Mr.
name.
Knows, your name is Dope.
That was good.
I know.
That was her thinking cap. That was
That's just thinking cap, yeah.
All right. So the one thing I did notice in the chat is there's some names in there I haven't seen before. So let me say thank you for coming to join us.
Welcome.
And if you're not familiar with what direct radio voice is and how it works, Ron, should I just run my original bocce and your secondary DRV Ron Tony bocce, just for people maybe that aren't familiar with it, has never heard it, hasn't heard how it operates, before we go into the other clips?
You mean the two we were just discussing? The two?
Correct.
You belong in show business, Rathman. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah, it would be good. And just for context, people who are watching who may not know, because it's funny, I even I was talking to Richard Estep at the Haunted Hotels Dead Ends weekend in Concord at the Paracon, and he didn't know some of the people from background of ITC in history who were from Europe. So it's fascinating, because what has really gotten play in the U.S. is really what is most. No, I mean, look, our country is the home of, and the founders of celebrity, pretty much, right? It starts here. So Marcello Bacci, which is a pivotal name in these clips, he was a direct radio voice practitioner. He worked with some of the founders of EVP Research, Konstantin Radovay, Friedrich Jurgensen. That's what inspired him. He was using an old vacuum tube radio, pre-transistor. That's how they worked. And we talked about, they removed vacuum tubes. They unplugged his radio. The only thing they could stop the vocals from coming through just with pure white noise was him. And this speaks to, and too bad Chris isn't here because he loves this stuff. This speaks to, I think, the metaphysical side of it, because as you and I have taken a tech turn with this stuff to really try to turn it and move it forward, Bocce was using just the white noise, and he was using a vacuum tube radio.
Right.
And that was it. So, and when you look at, that's probably still, and you and I are chipping away at this, but that's still probably the most unbelievably long and direct and clear communication two-way ever. Them and probably the Har Fishbacks in Luxembourg is a close second, if not neck and neck.
Right.
So important to point that out too. But that's who Bocce is. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time, I think, in direct radio voice and ITC.
I agree completely. So I'm going to play the video I got first, which I shared with Ron, and then I'm going to play one that Ron got. Now, Ron's and Lourdes are over in New Jersey. Cherie and I are in Phoenix, so we're literally across the country from each other. But one of the things I want to point out when I play I'll get to that let me play mine first.
And then tell the story between them of what happened. Right. Yeah. I want you to tell that part of it, because your enthusiasm is it's awesome.
Well, this stuff is just, it blows my mind. I mean, I've been doing ghost box spirit communication for 12 years.
Yeah.
And this just blows it out of the water. But with that said, here's the first clip, and then the whole show will begin. So here it comes.
Spirits, can you please try to communicate with us through this device? Who's watching?
Bachi.
That was clear. Do you want us to do the rumbling?
Bachi, are you keeping track of what we're doing?
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
I love it. That last line is the reason why we sit in front of white noise like idiots every week. That's amazing.
That's so awesome.
That's really good.
And you know, the funniest part is, clear as that is, as loud as that was, without any background vocal disturbance. I mean, it was crystal clear.
It's a complete sentence as well. It's not just
Correct.
one
Full sentence. But I don't think I caught that when we did it. It wasn't until after. Remember, we replayed it,
right?
And I'm like, he said, "I'd say glad to meet you," and then we were just like, "Holy cow!" But that's how it started. That was one of the first. There were a couple other ones before that, but that was one of the first really clear connection answer responses that we got. And so I sent it to Ron and I said, "Hey, listen to this," because I was thrilled.
So was I.
Yeah. Well, wasn't more than a couple days later that Ron texted me and said, "I'm going to send you something. You need to hear this." And there's a whole story behind this, but I'm going to play his next. Like I said, just so people can get an understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about direct radio voice. So here is Ron's clip.
Hey, Tony's my friend. I would agree. Can you say Entity Voices?
Yeah.
Just amazing. Just incredible. I mean, there's so many pieces to that, I mean, I had just gotten the one I played. Then I was discussing it with Ron. I shared it with him. I was new to DRV. And then he sends me this. And it was almost as if they were asking permission. Like, do you know him? Is he your friend? Because Ron's been communicating with him for, a couple of years. And I had just started with this method. And so it's like they went to Ron knowing that I was asking questions and saying, is he your friend? We're asking. Well, Ron said yes. And then we got that, or he got that information on Bocce again coming through. But what the really cool part is that my communication just took off after that. Yeah. After Ron's like, yeah, he's my friend, I agree. Then it's like they had felt comfortable to talk, and then it just blew wide open, which was just amazing.
Yeah, that's what we thought too. We thought, I mean, we always put our best foot forward, trying to speculate context sometimes if it's not readily apparent by the information. But that's what we thought. We thought they were saying, hey, he's doing what you're doing the way you're doing it. Is he cool? Is he all right? And I loved, my favorite part is the I'm asking, because I paused trying to think of what to say next, because I was like, they're telling me he's my friend. I was like, wow, they're identifying and making a comment. And then she's like, no, I'm asking.
Right.
Yeah. Which is like she was aware of my pregnant pause.
Right.
In the beginning, I hear there's a new house. So I'm wondering, and it's not annotated, but it's there. Goes, there's a new house. And I'm wondering it's because since Tony had started, is a new house doing the same method that we're doing.
Oh, Melissa Blackman, you're sweet. Don't cry though. Not yet.
But that's I mean, this is awesome. And then, but the thing is that what we think and then what happened next, which is what his voices took off.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
Right. That's a great point, because that bolstered what we speculated context-wise, right?
Right.
Like all of a sudden they say, no, he's okay, he's cool. All right, then let's open the floodgates. We're talking harassment.
That's what happened. That is literally what happened.
And 3 days apart, right, Tony? That's an important thing. 3 days apart. Could have happened at any other time. It happened 3 days after you started doing it.
Correct. And I got to go. Give me 1 second to just scroll.
I know I can see your mouse.
Okay, give me 1 second to just scroll up, because somebody made a comment. Let me just find it real quick.
I can try to help you.
I think it's in the bottom.
Evolving with the maybe talking about Tony with the DRV. Courtney Peters.
No, it was about the link.
Oh. All the way in the bottom, dude.
No, it's not that far down. It's up here somewhere.
I'll address real quick. Dope Nose was saying, do you think we hear what we want to hear or what we need to hear? Maybe need sometimes, because of the fact that they have an ability, I think, to know our intent. But I don't know about want, unless the want was tied to the need, because want kind of feeds into the concept where pareidolia comes in, and there's a whole lot of unexplained ground when laying that down as an explanation that people don't cover. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Maybe need if they're sensing, intent wise and what's happening with us as far as our energy and emotional, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I went past it already, and it scrolls back down on the comments. So it was something about the link, and I think he was referring to, remember what happened the following day? I got up and a link showed up on Facebook that was from no sender. And it was a YouTube link, and I didn't want to click it. So I went to my computer and I typed it in. Sure enough, it linked to a Bocce video answering a question that we were talking about that night before. And when I went back to the actual link, it was gone. Mm-hmm. Had no sender, but then was gone. But anyway.
That was Stanley Roblewski? Yeah, Stanley Roblewski.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he had heard me talk about that prior, because that did happen. But here's another good question so do you think you hear what you want to hear, or do we hear what we need to hear? You know what? In that, when you look at any discernment of even EVP, let alone ITC, that's what a lot of scientists will claim, that it's static mismatched sounds, and your brain is trying to make sense of it, or you think you're hearing what you're expecting to hear. And that is an argument that comes from people doing spirit communication. But I can tell you that what we all just heard and played, how many people didn't hear? Now, and people say, well, you put the words up. Well, okay, I agree. That can be misleading to break them down a path. But those audible voices from DRV are not sounds and noise. I mean, it is clearly speech.
Yeah.
And you can distinguish the words even if they weren't typed underneath. We type them underneath because a lot of people who haven't listened to EVPs aren't familiar with this. When you first start out, it can be difficult to hear. There is some ear training that is needed because they don't speak in the same tone or the same fashion or the same speed. And so we do that for people who might not necessarily be able to catch it if the words weren't there, but not to influence it.
Yeah,
right.
Even though without the words up there, it's still, you can hear it clear.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Katie Healthy said acclimate. Yeah, and there's a lot of. I'm big on continuity of thought, and I'm big on thinking through all the avenues. And if I miss some of my own research and logic, then shame on me. And I also need to continually educate myself. But those things always bother me with the annotating. You're putting the words on. It's the power of suggestion. Well, when I heard it and I annotated it, I didn't have that.
Right.
So
exactly.
I heard it for one. For two, you can voice print. If you want to see if those are the words you're hearing, you can do a spectrograph. You can speak into the software. You can record it and match the visual image of the spectrograph. If it looks the same, ta-da, fingerprint, those are the words. The white noise doesn't have any of it. The pareidolia thing, the problem with that is where is the data or the research that shows how this plagues people in their day-to-day regular life? At the rate of capture for paranormal teams all over, to be mishearing and experiencing pareidolia on the level that would discount the majority of this evidence, none of us would be able to function in life and have jobs, relationships, go to a store. How come I can listen to a ghost box thing and it's really just going, but I hear close the door, but I don't go to work the next day and my boss goes, you're fired, and I go, a raise? Fantastic. Why doesn't that happen? Where's the data that shows how this is faulty with us day to day? So I think it's too lazy and convenient to say that that's always the case. Does pareidolia happen? Yes. Does it explain all of this or a majority of it? I would argue no.
No, and most of the scientific community that's proposing that hasn't had the time, the involvement, or the research. I mean, are there a ton of EVPs out there that are absolute just mismatched sounds and could be noises? Yes, there are. But are there a percentage that are so clear that nobody would tell you those are not legitimate?
I want to real quick touch on something because of the brilliant, and we love her, Katie Holte mentioned the Laurel Yanny thing. So the interesting thing about Laurel Yanny is my son brought this up to me one time, and the perception by people who put this out there as a way to discredit what we do or what we hear will say that some people heard one thing, some people heard the other thing, with the implication being there was one message and you heard Laurel and I heard Yanny. The truth is Laurel was recorded at a higher frequency than Yanny was, or it was the other way around, I forget. They were recorded at separate times. They're both present in the recording, but they're at different levels. And one of them, the higher one, which I believe was Yanny, was recorded ambiently. So you not only had it recorded, it was played and then added to the recording where Laurel already was, which also gave it more what? More stochastic resonance, where you had resonance of white noise bolstering that sound. So then you have gender, and you have the propensity for, again, women, higher frequency hearing. You also have the biochemical and mental part of it, which is having hearing familiarity. If you know people named Laura and Laurel, you might hear that more easily than you'll hear the other one because it's a familiar thing to you.
Correct.
It's not just one word that goes, and people heard Laurel and they heard Yanny. It's a lot deeper than that. So
that's the misconception.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to throw it out there because my son was like, "Hey, what about this?" And I was like, "Well, hold on."
Yeah.
No,
they're
but you're
both there.
absolutely right.
They're both there.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
So
a good
depending
point.
on your hearing, that's what you would hear. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, to continue on with how
Oh, we
effective.
forgot the question.
Oh yeah.
There was someone who asked a question about sound soap. I'm sorry.
I don't have it on the comments, so if you
I got it real fast.
see-
I can scroll. Yeah, first of all, Frankie Barone, spot on. The longer you listen, the better your ear and discernment becomes. Yep.
Right.
We have inborn pattern recognition for hearing and for visual stuff. I always say, you get in a helicopter, you fly over a landscape, you don't know anything. A couple of times you kept getting points of references. Boom, you start putting together some kind of frame of reference. That is pattern recognition. We hear that way also. It was.
You passed the question.
Oh, I
Right
passed
there.
it.
Yeah, I just showed you where it was. Now you mean
No, it was
it's
right
right
there.
there.
Bobby Zig, which is also a very cool name. You want to know where we can get the SoundSoap plugin? It's pretty old. I can't find that version anymore. It is difficult to find the older version, but there are places to get it for free, right? Still.
There are. You just have to have a day or two to literally search and search and search for it.
Yep. We have the best audience, by the way, too. Like, look at the comments, like what Katie Holte, Frank Marone, Bobby Zig, Courtney, like what their people are saying. It's fantastic.
It is, and their excitement in what we're doing makes it twice as much fun for us because, I mean, Ron will say to me every day, I'll talk to him, he'll be like, I love how excited you've been excited for weeks, but I am because
I like it.
You know, Thomas Edison and Tesla talked about creating a device that you could actually phone to the dead for Edison, and I don't remember, Tesla's was some box like Ghost Box or something.
Not Tesla, the car.
Not the car.
Not the car. But if it worked, you could sell a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, in 12 plus years of doing this is as close as I have seen because, and we'll get into the reasons why you don't get a single word and what our theory is on that. But I'd like to start with some of Ron's clips just demonstrating what direct radio voice can do. So which one would you like me to play first or play them in order, or how would you like me to handle this?
What would you like? One of the ones from the weekend first?
Whatever you
I
want.
think the one that we played once before, but it was worth showing again, the Damnation one. Maybe we'll hold that for a little bit after. That's one of it's a minute and 10-second narrative in the same voice with a continual message that was staggering to hear. I was laughing hysterically every time I found a new sentence after the last one. I couldn't believe how long the message was, and we haven't even finished that file yet.
Wow.
So I would save that one. I would say go with what were the ones? There were two. There were three of them from Concord. Do the I don't remember what I do.
I don't remember, honestly.
I don't remember what I do. Hold on, I'll tell you right now.
You have RY Large Room 203 Post Lourdes, Damnation Dark, Bocce Radave 8 and 10 Spirits, Concord Room 203 Dialogue.
Do the 203. It's post Lourdes shower. She was coming out of the shower and I was running the radio just to set stuff up. And it's kind of important because it goes to when you hear what comes out of the radio, you'll understand that there's context for you. That shows shows that there's some kind of connection beyond audible. For sure, yes. Katie Holte, audio review is time consuming. It is, and that's why through ITC we're trying to make that as minimal as possible and maximize real time dialogue. But yeah, you'll hear through this one. She had a real time conversation.
Yeah.
All right, here's that clip.
And I always pronounce it wrong. I apologize. I heard my name. Can you name someone else in the room? Robert.
That's
Robert.
Robert.
Yup.
Wow.
Is there someone else
Thank
that you
you.
can name? Yes, and thank you for that. Can you name someone else? Chris. You heard it? I heard Chris.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Yep. Got the roll call going.
We have 3 more.
Ron.
Did you hear that? You heard it, right? Oh my God, that's awesome. Thank you. We appreciate you. We love communicating with you, and we love when you come through. Thank you for communicating.
That's awesome.
That was awesome. I mean, that was one of the first things I noticed about Direct Radio Voice when we came out to do the 4-mansion tour with you guys, was that no spirit box I had ever used or ever built could have that dynamic for that length and with that length of answers.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd get a word or two, not full sentences.
That went on for the whole 30 minutes that we were at. Simultaneously, they were doing the dead ends, so we weren't on camera for the whole show. So in between, we were running that. I just want to point out that I realized that I must talk way too much. By the time I finished explaining the clip, you played a different one. That wasn't the shower one at all. That was the room 203 one. So that means I talked so long, you forgot what clip it was.
You know what? Now that you say it, I'm thinking, yeah, that had nothing to do with the shower, and there were a lot of people in that room. I'm just saying.
That's funny.
She didn't blame you, Tony. She blamed me. She goes, "You talked so long, he didn't remember which one you told him to play."
Oh, I thought I heard you say 203.
Yeah,
it's my fault. But that was the other one I was thinking about starting with too, though.
yeah. So Patty was blown. They were like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, Patty Negri was just blown away, and she's, if anybody don't know her, we've seen her on TV. She is the definition of a sweetheart. She's such a talented, gifted, and kind soul. She was enamored with this. She was enamored. She had also said, similarly to what Zappa said, that she'd never seen anything like this.
Right, and they're absolutely correct. And neither have I, and I'm sure you thought the same thing. When you keep getting what isn't just a 1 or 2 word answer, you can literally have a conversation, and we're going to show that in other things that we play tonight. But which one do you want me to play next then?
You're going to go through all of ours first instead of back and forth?
It doesn't matter. I'll go to one of mine. This one's kind of funny. It's short. It's only 38 seconds. But Ron and I communicate weekly on what's happening, what we're doing, what we're working on. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about something, and I won't get into it yet, but we joined via StreamYard. And I was running the DRV, and we were just getting this terrible echo. And luckily, the spirits came through and told us exactly what the problem was.
Oh, yeah.
Here's that clip.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't understand where this is coming from. Is there an echo now?
No. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, there's no echo now. Is your sound coming out more than one place there?
No.
Idiots.
I heard it.
Funny. I love that one.
No, they just should have
Not
said.
because you guys are idiots.
Oh, no, it was an ID 10T error. That's what it was.
Yes, that's correct. And so if there's any question about if there's all-knowing wisdom on the other side, there's your proof. They figured us out.
Too funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious, but clear as a bell.
Yeah.
I mean, idiots. And I heard it too. He beat me to saying it. He's like, idiots. I'm like, yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, no, they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
No, but for them to be able to just be part of the conversation is just mind blowing to me. And we're going to get farther down into things that we've done, but let's jump back to one of Ron's.
And Tony, real fast too, that speaks to what you always say about both EVP and ITC stuff, which is you can tell a lot of information from it. That was coded in sarcasm. It had context. It spoke to the fact that we were struggling with something. We couldn't figure. We're trying to talk to the other realm, and we can't figure out an echo.
Right.
It was funny.
We're in way over our heads.
Exactly. They're like idiots. They're like, these are the people taking on Bocce's work. Oh my God, we're in trouble.
Remember when we had that clip from the Pine Bush UFO digital seance?
Oh, yeah.
And they were asking about how many puddings did she eat? And it goes, leading experts. Ha. What, remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, leading experts.
Our leading
experts.
Yeah.
They make fun of us sometimes.
Yeah,
and that's good because we do too.
They do. And I'm going to play some tonight too, where they give me, just the most bizarre answers. But that's again what I love about it. So I'm not restricted to a yes or a name and then nothing else. I mean, they just keep talking. All right, Ron, which one do you want me to play next?
Since I talked about it already, we can skip the long-winded intro. Not that I do that. Play the one that says 203 post orders. This is the one when she had come out of the shower.
Okay.
And I was already running the radio.
All right, here it comes.
Hi, Lotus.
Hi. How are you? I'm good. I'm glad to hear that you're good. Who's speaking to me? I miss you too, I guess. I don't know who it is. You have to tell me who you are.
Wow. That was incredible.
Yeah, we were stunned. You should have saw her face because she was just getting ready, so she was behind the door, and he goes, "Hi, Dorothy," and she's still behind the door. She goes, "Oh, hi," and then, "How are you?" And he goes, "I'm good, babe," and she was like, her head came out like this.
Yeah, and then his next sentence was, "I'm staring."
Yeah. Love this bitch. It was like, what?
I was just shocked because we get our names a lot, so I'm kind of used to it. Not that I take it for granted, guys. And so when it said hi, Lourdes, I just responded like Greg, and I was like, "Hi, how you doing?" But when it said I'm good, I was like, "Holy crap, I'm good!" It's like it's a dialogue conversation. I really felt like I was talking to somebody on the phone. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, just the amount of intelligence that is being portrayed from a disembodied voice that we can identify from where it's coming from is probably about the best proof to consciousness surviving death that I can even imagine. If what they were saying was random and had nothing to do with the conversation you two were having, that would be one thing. But everything being said ties in to the conversation that was happening. That cannot happen randomly. It is
right. It's true. It was too much of a rapid communication. Yeah. Hi, how you doing? I'm good, babe. It was just like immediate. Right. I like some of the comments; they're funny.
Yeah, and the whole concept, because there is some study behind, whether it could be PK energy and our own thoughts and all that stuff. The problem with that is that if my thoughts were thinking "Hi, Lourdes," I would have said it. I was in the room with her, for one. For two, when you go to that whole PK and it's our energy coming through, here's another area of study that I have not seen any data on. When we have a sitting right? And there's 40 people, 50 people in the room like we did at Pine Bush. What determines whose consciousness or PK trumps somebody else's to come through versus another? Because if it's PK energy, has that been measured to show in a room, you know, these 4 people read 25% higher than the other 40% of the people? Like, there has to be something. You can't just say it's your thoughts coming through and then not substantiate that when you change the experiment, which is 1 person, 2 people, 400 people, 20, whatever it is. So I think there's a portion of what goes on with what we do with its consciousness. Some of it could be telepathy, PK, and all that, I think. But I think it gets laid out too much again, and laziness is not. This is not a business for laziness to just say, oh, it's just your thoughts. Well, not all the time. You know what I mean? I certainly wasn't thinking about bocce when that other thing came through, and a lot of the stuff we get is not
correct. Was never, same with me, was never in my mind. Thought has a huge component to it, though, and that component, to me, in my personal opinion, is that, again, this goes back to years of EVP as well, but there's times the answer would come on the recording before I even finished asking the question. So it's me thinking the question that I'm about to say or in the process of saying. That is the method where they receive the question I'm asking, not from my mouth. They're not hearing sound waves. It's a mental energy. It's whatever that energy is. That's what allows them to answer. So is that thought process part of this? It is, but that is the main component outside of maybe the thought process of being open-hearted and open-minded to those answers coming back, because that is another component.
Katie brings up a good point. Maybe the frequency of thought plays a meaningful role. It might, but when I question it, I'm questioning the fact that there are more than one example or scenario within which it could play a role. And if those examples or scenarios change, do the components or the ratio of participation change, right? And you brought up an excellent point. Why doesn't your question come through and you end up answering? Why doesn't your question go, how do we hear you on the side of the veil? And you go, oh, I was going to ask you that. Like, why doesn't the question? It's always the answer that comes through.
Right. Correct. So that makes sense, because it's not like you think it and so that thought comes through. It's answering your thought. So how does that work when it comes to that? You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
And I remember it was Friedrich Jurgensen, who was an ITC and EVP, really a pioneer, who answered an interview question one time and said that if I could be doing that, I'd be the most powerful person on the planet, because I would be able to speak in every language, in different dialects, different senses of humor. I would know proprietary information, business and social sensitive and specific jargon, dialects. I mean, it's endless, the amount of the span of speech and the ability to communicate across different languages and different sets of substandards and jargon. And it's one person cannot just have that all at the ready.
Right.
I think. And if they can, then we need to find out how that happens.
So I just want to say quickly, and I can't read the name, but maybe it was a succubus. I think it could have been. And then someone asked if I know Avon Jennings. I don't. I have no idea, no clue who Avon Jennings is. So I just wanted to answer the question.
And that was also, I thought, really cool too, is because a lot of times we ask for names, even just in regular any communication. You know, what's your name? And we don't always get an answer. But she had to say, how you doing, whatever, you know, and then she goes, tell me your name, and it gave a name.
Yeah.
I want to find out if that name has anything to do historically with the place we were at.
Exactly.
Well, not only a name, a full name with the last name.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Jennings.
I will say this: if there's any possibility that my thoughts came through in that session, it was the "love that bitch" part. Would have been.
I love that too. I love you, Loki.
Oh, I love you guys too.
That's it.
All right, so I'm gonna play this next one. It's super short, it's 29 seconds, but another name does show up that is tied to ITC, and this was just incredible with direct radio voice. So here's that clip.
Who do we have today? Who's trying to connect with us?
Love it. Love it. Again, you talk timing, relevance, context. That's one of the people who put spirit communication on the map when it wasn't cool to be on the map.
Right. Exactly. You know, and Cherie's question was, who do we have with us? And then to hear that name. And so also for people who don't know, this is using a radio, but on a channel that has absolutely no radio transmission. It is a white noise frequency only. So anybody out there thinking, you know, you're picking up radio signal. No, there is no radio signal within this frequency range. And it's usually long wave or short wave. Yeah. And the chances of that, and I mean, even when I started doing that, I would run that thing for 24 hours straight, because if there was a signal, you'd hear it through the radio. You'd hear it come through. There was none.
Yeah, when we do demonstrations and lectures, I'll play on the second radio the exact frequency that I'm filtering when I do that. And I'll invite them up, come up and look at it. You can see that these radios are the same. And if you want, I'll unplug it when we're done and you can hear them running together. There's nothing on it. We wanted to real fast, and Lourdes had caught it too, that Jessica Gem, who said, Ron and Lourdes helped me connect with my deceased brother-in-law.
Hi, Jessica.
The Digital Seance Initiative behind us, which is what the next book I'm almost finished with is about DRV and stuff we're doing. But we're also doing somewhat of a bocce-like thing where we're taking this to places and giving people an opportunity to maybe connect with someone they missed, someone they lost. And we've had people reach out to us after many events. After the New Jersey Power Unity Expo a few months back, Jessica messaged me. She had a recording with her ex-brother-in-law's name in his voice on the recording. I said, I have it recorded, but if you have it, send it to me. And she sent it to me. And sure enough, the name is there. And it was very clear. And it was just, and that was meaningful to us, because that's the most important thing we can provide doing this.
Because we truly believe, I personally believe, that, you know, we were blessed to be able to do this, and it has to be for a reason. And I feel like that reason is to help people with, you know, loved ones, you know, for closure, for just because they happen to miss their voice and they want to hear the voice, you know, give them some kind of solace. I think that's the reason why we were blessed to do this. And that's, you know, when it happens, it's such a wonderful, beautiful feeling.
And it's happened quite a number of times in the last year.
Yeah. And they seem to be increasing. So I think the more we do it and the more we keep doing it, the more it's just going to take over. And that's what why can't I think of his name? Bocce did. I mean, he just kept doing it over and over and over. And it didn't start out instantaneously. I mean, he progressed it forward.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Which one do you want me to play next? I have
2 more, right?
Yeah. I have Bocce, Rada. Well, I don't want to name it off. 8 and 10 Spirits.
Yeah, play that one. That one was cool because we'll do the Damnation one last. This one was cool because this one was Patty Negri was asking a lot of the questions after the beginning part, and I showed where she's sitting, and in case if you don't know who she is, and then said that she's speaking, but she has phenomenal connection with spirit. She actually connected with my mom during the seance
beautiful
that we did in Concord. She hit some stuff on the head that she could not have known. It was really interesting. So having her in the room was like having the world's largest antenna to the other side. It was just the biggest burst of positive energy. It's like her and Krista Cesare, we could probably take the veil down for good.
All right, here comes that clip. Which one am I playing? No, I'm kidding. I got it.
Is Constantine Rodave able to say his name?
How many people are here with us? Oh my God! Oh my God! Because it paused. And I had to count. And as soon as I typed it, oh wait, and there's 8 humans. Yes.
Yep.
Wow. It counted. It literally counted. Thank you so much.
Oh my
we
God.
so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many on the
I
other
heard
side of the veil? Here. How many spirits are here on the other side of the veil?
10 spirits. Low voice. 10 spirits.
Again,
That was
another
awesome.
question.
Not only did you get the number,
Mhm.
but they clarified what 10 was, spirits.
Right?
Yeah,
that
that's
shows
true.
unbelievable intelligence. That's not random. That's communication.
It's like they put, and I'm telling you, because it took them a little time.
Yeah.
Like if they answered, like for the humans, it's like how many? It's like they did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah, there was a pause.
8, and then they said 8.
Right.
That was great.
Yeah, and
And
the
it's true to the I can't say.
positive energy.
Well, yeah, no, but I would say to verify the difference between it said 10 spirits, right?
Yeah, that's a great observation, Tony.
Differentiate.
That's true.
I
Yes,
kinda-
differentiate between
There you go.
people and then the spirits, right? Because Patty asked both of those questions
Yeah.
separately.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, that was just, you know, when we talk about the repeatability, right? To have that whole fill that scientific quota. You've played already a few of yours. We put a few of ours. We just did these Saturday night, Saturday night.
Saturday.
So I mean,
Friday. That
Friday
one was
night.
Friday.
That was Friday night.
Yeah, that one was Friday.
So and those were all the people who crammed in our room.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So the next one, let me just play this one. This one actually began, but I'm not going to explain it until I get to the next one. But here's another direct radio voice where I was explaining that I heard them say my name, but I couldn't tell what was after it. And when I played it for Cherie, she's like, it says my name. It says Cherie Rathman. So here's that clip.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can hear it.
Full name, first and last name, both right in a row.
Can we
Tony
do that?
Rathman,
Do it again, please. Play it again.
All right, one more time.
That's really cool.
I heard something about business cards.
Yes, I heard.
You heard that, right?
I heard the word business. I heard something about connecting. There's a lot. There's more
It said,
in that.
Where's your business cards? I heard.
There's so much in there, which is
Yeah.
why what we do with this is referred to not as a device, but a method, because it literally, every time you turn it on, you probably have to make adjustments depending on circumstances, atmospheric conditions, but you literally tune voices in and out.
Yeah.
And you'll get lingering voices that come out of nowhere. And I'm sure you're probably, because they're conversing.
Yeah.
With the next one that I'm going to play after Ron's, there's some stuff in there that just blows my mind, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But let's move back to Ron and the damnation one.
This is from the Shanley Hotel Labor Day weekend, and we did a book signing event there. Kelly at the Shanley, we adore her. She's very good to us, and we did a whole thing for my first book. And that night we had with ladies of the Lady Ghost Hunters. I forget the name of the group now. I feel bad.
LGH.
LGH.
What is it? Ladies of Ghost Hunting.
Ladies of Ghost Hunting.
Yeah,
with
I
us.
believe so.
Yep, we had a full house, and we did direct radio. We did a sitting for about an hour
Hi, Chris.
at the main kitchen dining area, and it was just like we just kept talking, and then it'd be quiet, and someone else would ask something, and then the radio was quiet, and then they would answer. This is proof of two things. This is proof that we had direct contact, and this is also proof that we need to get faster at reviewing stuff when we record it, because this is 1 minute and 8 seconds of a 30-minute file.
Mhm.
And we haven't heard the rest of it yet because we were cutting clips for the show the last time. And when I heard this, I made the clip, and then we recorded more stuff. And
it's funny because it was in preparation for our show, and I was looking for the one that says Lourdes' favorite space, right? And I remember hearing the damnation, so I came across damnation, and I gave it to him with just that one word, damnation. And then from there, it grew, and grew because that's what happened. Right?
Yeah, exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was laughing every time another sentence came after the other one. I was in tears laughing, and I was probably slap happy tired too. But she's like, "What are you laughing at?" I went, "There's more. I have to keep annotating."
Yeah, he can. Yeah, but that was from one word that I heard, and then I was like, "You should play this one," and then we just kept hearing stuff.
So this speaks to one of the phenomenal things about DRV. It's a narrative. It's one message. It's one voice. It's a continuous thought that's cohesive in its message.
Okay, here's that clip.
Why are you so angry?
Not fair, I heard.
You know what we're doing. Well, is it easier
Wow.
That was quite long.
That's
Oh,
that's
it's
what makes it
awesome.
incredible is
Yeah.
because you guys weren't even asking questions.
Mhm.
They were speaking on their own. Like that time I said, I turned on DRV and they started asking me questions, not me going, are there spirits here? You know, how did you die? No, they were asking me questions. But to have the same voice in full sentences, literally speak what he's thinking and what he's feeling in a continuous minute and 8 seconds worth. And like you said, you haven't even gotten through it all yet.
And he even, because in the beginning of that, Tony, before he starts speaking, in there it says, "Hear our message."
Right.
But it was already, he didn't want to add it, but it's in there. It goes, "Hear our message," and then it says all that.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. Just absolutely incredible.
That's one of the clearest ones I think we've ever gotten. It was so loud, and I've had phone calls on my very expensive Verizon fueled phone that didn't sound as good as that.
Exactly.
So, you know,
Exactly.
it was insane.
Yeah. Well, but one of the things I want to make sure the audience understands is that, yes, it's using a world band radio, but it is literally only using static white noise.
Mhm.
And anybody who knows the properties of white noise is that it is the broadband spectrum of every sound from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. So basically every sound known to the human ear is packed into the white noise spectrum at a stable and constant basis, meaning that the 20 hertz isn't louder than the 25 hertz, or the 25 hertz isn't louder than the 525, and all the way up the scale. Every single one of them is at a constant.
Mm-hmm.
And all those sounds are playing at the same time continuously, which gives you that sort of static sound. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, Cherie and I were giving a demonstration, and I had in my bag a sleep machine that had a white noise sound on it. So I actually ran it through this to see if I could pull a voice. And yes, I did. In fact, it was a looping, probably an MP3 file or a WAV file where somebody recorded 3 seconds of white noise and then had it loop. So when I asked the question and got the response, the response actually got embedded onto the loop, onto the MP3 or WAV. And so now every time I play it, I hear that same response from that question I asked. And I haven't had time to test it further than that.
It's awesome, Tony. If I can cut in, that's not only awesome, but with that thing, you did something that was brave. First of all, for anybody to stand in front of an audience at a demonstration, at an event, and experiment with something for the first time, that's confidence, and it's confidence you can only have. And well, okay, a little bit of both, perhaps, but we're both guilty of that. But it's confidence that comes from experience. You're secure in who you are and what you do. You had a concept that you believed in, and you just went for it. Nothing to lose. Who cares? The other thing that you did besides prove what you were trying to set out to prove, and I only really cut in, I thought this was important, was we know people in EVP research, like Alexander McRae, for example, who have recorded EVPs with devices that don't have microphones.
Right.
You validated that as well, because that device you use does not record. It does not receive signal. It's got probably a card inside that's able to hold data that they somehow imprinted the message on.
Correct.
What I love that this is what I find fascinating, that you would have never discovered that it was a 3-second loop if it wasn't for the voices that you captured that was imprinted into the white noise. That's
I would have never known, because you couldn't, when you play the machine, you can't hear it. It just sounds like constant white noise, which people sleep by, but it's literally playing a 3-second loop. And the only way I knew that was because I'd listen to where my answer started, I'd count, and then it would start again. I'm like, it's a 3-second loop. And that's all it was.
Yeah. But the only thing that could have been funnier was that if you got like the most amazing evidence and the whole audience was asleep because it's a sleep machine.
No, I never thought of that could have happened.
Wait till I get my machine, my sleep machine.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It was a brilliant thing to try. That was really ballsy and brilliant. I love that.
Thank you. Well, that's how it began. And so Ron and I had conversation after conversation, and Lourdes too, about how we thought this was working, what we thought was possible. And I put together about a 10 different process lists to try,
including the wind.
Let me get to that. So one of them was, instead of something that loops, a white noise generator, meaning circuitry designed to equally distribute 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz on a stable fashion that basically creates the white noise sound that you hear if you're on the radio and in between channels.
Fresh.
So I did that. And what I'm about to play for you has no radio. So anyone thinking that because Ron's saying DRV, direct radio voice, the radio to me and our research literally has nothing to do with the equation outside of being able to generate live white noise. And the reason I say that is because people say, oh, it's a radio, you're picking up signals. No, it's not happening. And the reason I know that is because I used a white noise generator. There's no radio in it. It cannot receive radio signals. There's no recording device. There's no message that could be pre-recorded to show up in the answers. It's just physically impossible. Plus, because the generator ran on my phone, I put the phone in airplane mode. No signal could come in, no internet, no text message, no phone call. The phone literally just became a white noise generator to electronically create the white noise. Now, what I'm going to play for you is me asking questions to the white noise generator. Here it is. As soon as I find my mouse. Got it. We're good to go. Here it comes. Hey, Anthony Rathman. Tony, I heard Tony. I'm assuming our spirit lives on. Yes. How long are we in the other life? Do we have the choice to come back and live again here on Earth? Yes. Is it easy to communicate with this direct radio voice method? Richie, I heard someone say Richie. Yes, okay. Will you share information with me, please? Spirits, I don't mean to test you with boring questions, but can you tell me my wife's name? Can you show me how to make this so I can hear you clearer? All right. I don't know why that one didn't play the subtitle words, but that was probably a good indication because hopefully you did hear some of the responses without any wording to affect it. But now I'm going to play the one I hope does have spelled out what I was hearing. So here, let me play it again one more time. I hope they're on this one. Hey, Anthony Rathman. Tony, I heard Tony. Nope.
It's just in one ear.
It's just in one ear? All right. What I want to do is I don't know, I must have uploaded the wrong file. So let me why don't you go ahead and I don't know, just give me just a minute to you guys talk or something. Give me Cherie, that includes you. Give me a minute to find the right one because now
finally now he wants to include me.
I always want to include you.
Oh.
But
No.
you know, as he was playing that one, I was hearing a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I heard something about spirit and energy and something about message, and it was a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. No, that was interesting. The filtration of the white noise is definitely, I think, the main artery that pumps the blood through this whole, the life into this process, for sure. And you've sourced it through an app that generates white noise. You've sourced it through a machine that loops it, and you've sourced it through a radio.
Sorry, our dog's going bananas. Somebody must be outside. I'm just going to mute this. Keep talking.
It looks like the Austin Powers movie when he had a picture of himself behind himself.
Tony with hat, Tony without hat.
Yeah.
That's funny. So you want to talk about our weekend? We did have a great weekend.
The weekend was fantastic. Yeah, we
What was your favorite part of this weekend?
My favorite part of the weekend was probably sharing direct radio voice evidence stuff with both Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, who was enamored, and he actually wants to collaborate with us on a few things. And Patty Negri, who was, she's been in this field for a long time. She's worked with everybody, and she was also enamored with the length and the clarity of the messages. And when you pare down, that it's just, as Tony keeps saying, just the white noise, the purity of the white noise. It's fascinating. It's not the only way to connect, but it just seems, just watching Marcello Bacci, the Harsh Fishbacks in Luxembourg, Mark Macy, the length of the messages, the dialogue is just uncanny. It's crazy how long the conversations go. That 1 minute and 8 second thing we shared is probably not even a scratch on the surface of what we captured that day.
Right. Well, and there's so many things about it that just blow me away. Like I said, I think I have it now. I think this is the one that has the subtitles, but it'll have allowed you to heard it prior, and now you'll get to see what I was hearing for answers. But the fascinating part is when you boil it down to white noise, and there are people for the last, 100 years that say you know, I can't use sleep machines, or I can't sleep with the fan on. I hear voices. And scientists will say, again, audio pareidolia. You know, your mind is hearing random sounds and you think you're hearing voices which aren't there, like visual pareidolia, where the human mind is conditioned to see faces. So if there's two, what looks like eyes, nose, mouth, you're going to see a face. I don't believe that to be the case with white noise or a fan noise. I believe that spirits can manipulate that white noise. In fact, we have an answer from them saying they use white noise because it holds energy, and they can manipulate that energy to affect their voice being heard. Now, could that happen with what we're doing with white noise, or for direct voice response where we can hear it with our own ears? Maybe it takes more energy for them to do that, but white noise can exist just about anywhere. And that's what Cherie was saying about the wind. I literally taped a mic to the roof of my car when I took my son home yesterday, which is like half an hour each way. Came home, took that recording and played it to see if I could filter out voices, and I could. The problem is that it wasn't consistent, like static white noise. It wasn't even. If a car went by me, it would get louder, or so it was hard for me to control the voices. But were they there? Absolutely, they were.
So, Tony, it's so good to hear that from you, because I'm telling you, when I first started meditating and I got really deep into meditation, I heard voices everywhere. I heard voices in the fan. I heard voices in water. I heard voices everywhere. And honestly, I thought about Bill O'Neill, because that happened to him too. And they said that he went crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not turning into Bill O'Neill and turning crazy. But I believe that exactly they can use all those energies, all those sounds to make their voices come out.
I don't think it has anything to do with being crazy. I think you're either sensitive enough to hear it. Because let's face it, Ron, if that's the definition of crazy, you and I are like not only past the ridge, we're like this close to hitting the ground.
We're done.
We're done.
We're done.
But anyway, let me play this one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying real quick too, to put even a finer point on that. White noise is not the product of an empty radio. White noise is all environmental sounds audible at all times, and you're able to create that same effect of white noise with the vacant radio station, with the machine that generates the white noise. Now, when you talk about noise or sound, and you're with the microphone in the car, and you're talking about not being at a constant, all sound is a disturbance to the air. Wind is a disturbance to the air. It travels more efficiently through water and metal, but it does in fact travel through the air. And there's the argument, if a tree falls in the woods thing, right? If it's not a receptor to hear it or to detect it, an eardrum or a microphone or something that it hits and makes contact with, then it arguably is just a disturbance in the air that the cohesiveness will run out, and then it'll just kind of, meld into the environment. It doesn't just keep going on and on and on and on. So that's what noise is. So when you have it at a constant with that variety of frequencies, you have the possibility for stochastic resonance. When their signal, wherever they're coming from, matches one of them in the white noise, those two jump and embolden each other, but the white noise does not increase. It stays at a constant, but those two frequencies do. So your signal to noise ratio is enhanced, then the undetectable, now detectable.
Correct. And think how easy it would be for a entity of energy to add a little something to white noise, which is basically a band of energy anyway, to just raise their frequency above that base level so it's heard. So anyway, here was that test, and here's the responses. Hey, Anthony Rathman. Tony, I heard Tony. I'm assuming our spirit lives on. Yes. How long are we in the other life? Do we have the choice to come back and live again here on Earth? Yes. Is it easy to communicate with this direct radio voice method? Richie, I heard someone say Richie. Yes, okay. Will you share information with me, please? Spirits, I don't mean to test you with boring questions, but can you tell me my wife's name? Can you show me how to make this so I can hear you clearer? Am I speaking with spirit? How many spirits are with me right now? 10? I hear quite a few voices. Is Becky an angel?
I love the ending. That's funny.
Well, yeah, it was like somebody told him, "Don't say that," and he's like, "What?
Yeah.
You didn't hear me?" Yeah, I did. I did hear him.
When the guy said, "I'm scared to talk," right after it says, "I feel so silly." It's very clear.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when it said close to the end, it said, "You're so gifted."
Oh yeah, you're so gifted.
You're so gifted.
There's
It
more
also
stuff
says-
in there. If you play it again and listen to it, I bet you'll find a lot more. That stuff in there.
There's tons there, no doubt about it. But the fact that I heard Richie, and then he's like, "Oh shit,"
Yeah.
you know, like I surprised him. Like he's not expecting anyone to be able to hear them speak. And he's like, "I'm afraid to talk," and it's like.
That's so much emotion in there, like, oh shit.
Right,
yeah. If anything resonates emotion, it's oh caca.
Right.
Oh my god.
And yeah, and it shows emotion, it shows awareness, and it also shows. I love when we speculate and theorize about what we think. We think maybe they're not always talking to us. Maybe they're talking to each other sometimes. Maybe we hear that. Well, when you hear somebody say something like that, and then you chime in, like the guy in the booth behind them at the diner, and then they go, "Oh shit!" I can't believe they're being heard. That kind of sets the context up to be that.
Right. And you know what? Everyone always talks about, the veil being so thin. Let's face it, they're speaking normally within the white noise band spectrum. And we've just found a way to pull it apart and to zero in on it. But even though it's within our hearing range, they're all speaking at the same time. And what do you think the equation is of number of living people compared to the number of people that are not living anymore? It's probably 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot. So, for them to literally be startled by me saying, "Oh, I heard that." That shows intelligence. It shows that I actually did hear what I thought I heard. And you can hear when he said, "Hey, Richie, how you doing?" You can hear Richie answer, "Good." He says, "Good."
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, "Oh shit." So
yeah,
it's one thing after another that, which gets me so excited about it, because pieces just kind of evolve and start to paint a picture of maybe what we think is going on.
In honor of our teammate who's not here tonight, here's another note of situational awareness, but on that side of the veil, because they knew that the voice that said about Richie coming from you was not where they were.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Hence the okaka.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Courtney Peterson,
sure they're not used to that.
Right.
No, I'm sure that
Right.
may be the case oftentimes.
Yeah.
Courtney Peterson said if white noise holds energy, do you think that's why you get longer communication with DRV because the energy it produces? Everything in the cosmos is energy. Everything has a vibrational level. There's a thing called 0 point energy because it's the lowest measurable or barely measurable energy that there is. But because everything has a vibrational level, there is no absolute zero. By the way, we think that may be another thing besides photonic waves that has something to do with communication, like when we were underground in a mine that was able to get messages into our device. We think 0 point energy may be part of it. But everything is energy. I think that the stochastic resonance and then the use of the gazillion frequencies in the 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz or kilohertz, 20 kilohertz range is a wide array of frequencies to be availed to them.
At a constant, because
yes,
that's important too. Like
that
said,
they can reach us within, and I think sometimes it's not always the best communication because if they are higher vibrational entities and higher vibrational forms and planes and all that, you have degradation of sound when you transduce down. You have degradation of sound when you lower it to try to meet something else, and so that's part of the challenge we have is because we can't do anything to work on singular attenuation. We can't do anything to tweak that part of it.
But to answer her question in another form, I absolutely believe that is the reason DRV you get longer responses. And here's the reason why I think that. I have built spirit boxes for 12 years. I have never gotten sentences, minutes of conversation through a spirit box, ever. I've gotten a word or two, maybe a partial sentence, but that's it. But here's the reason why I believe is because for years, paranormal people would say, well, they're taking different words within the various broadcasts it's scanning through and they're manipulating them and they're rearranging it and creating a new sentence. I don't think that's true anymore. And the reason I don't think that is because I just pulled voices out of complete white noise perpetrated from a generator. There is no radio. There is no radio signal. There is no radio anything. They literally were speaking within the white noise. DRV focuses solely on static white noise with no filtration of signal up or down the bands. None. It sits still on one station. Same as the white noise generator. There's no fluctuation. There's no radio transmission. There's no even components to accept a radio transmission. Yet I'm getting full answers. So the problem with spirit boxes is that they're scanning quickly across radio. And the reason I believe your answers are limited to a word, maybe two if you're lucky, is because they're having to manipulate the tiny white noise sections in between the stations.
That's right.
Long enough for them to give answers like we're getting on direct radio voice.
Right, because with the sweep, when we used them in the past, I would usually hear them underneath, the voices underneath, or maybe way on top. Right. So I believe that sometimes people do confuse the radio voices, those quick seconds for voices, but the voices are coming. I also believe in the white noise, and that's why we would hear them underneath or way above.
Yeah.
So yeah,
everything separates from the white noise, like it's outside.
Well,
you're
depending on the device that you were using, like the SP7 and the SP11, I believe that was added as a secondary aspect of those machines, which means when you're getting those radio clips, that white noise is a constant regardless of what stations are pushing. Now, it's super loud on the SP7 and 11, but if it's a natural white noise section, that's where the voice is. But I also agree that's why the voices sound below the radio or above, because I think it's a separate noise addition to the function of an SP7.
And like you said, since it's being swept, then that's why it's limited.
Or Swiffered.
Or whatever it's called.
Swiffered.
That's why it's very limited, because they're like, try like one round.
Yeah. wait. I'll go again. One more time. There you go.
Yeah. That was cute.
But it's true.
So what I love about her perspective on it, and then Tony, your involvement in DRV has already presented an idea that, in a way that I hadn't looked at it, which is that the messages on the sweeping box may be coming in between the vocal fragments, not because of the vocal fragments. And I'll tell you where there's an importance in that as an awareness, possibly being the reason why. Is I'm a member of the SPR in the UK, the Society of Psychical Research. I'm also a member of Academia EDU. I read white papers. I'm reading a lot of different studies when I can. And one of the things I noticed, and a lot of the people who are brilliant who work in the ghost box community may not even know, that on the academic level, a lot of people, not everybody, and certainly not me because I've seen them work, they don't consider sweeping boxes legitimate ITC research because of the possibility for false positives, which again, to me, is contradictory to scientific method, because scientific method needs to be falsifiable to be scientific method. That's why string theory is questionable, because you can't falsify it. So I think the fact that you can get false positives does not discredit a ghost box. But what they do say is that they don't think it's regular research, because they say for two reasons. One, audible fragments that have your attention scattered. So imagine, you know those booths they have, you step inside and it's like cash flying over the place, people trying to grab it. Imagine if they were all $1 bills, but there was a $10 billion check and you're trying to get it. You're so pulled in so many directions. So they think that's one, it's distracting. They also think that the methodology of using vocal fragments from broadcast takes free will out of the equation for the spirits, because in order to make certain sounds at a certain time, certain sounds have to be in a certain place in the rotation randomly at a specific time to form said sounds phonetically according to our language as we understand it. Holy crap, that's a lot to say. My point is, they take credit away from the methodology because of those two reasons. What you're suggesting is that it does work, which is what I believe, but it works this way, which also speaks to the brevity of the messages. That's why Tony Rathman for president.
No, but to be able to get full sentences from something that has no words in it at all means they have a way to manipulate whatever energy they're claiming with that's in the white noise broadband spectrum and manipulate it to make their voice stand out from it. And that's what we're doing with it. And if it took fragments of broadcast for them to create words, this shouldn't work. And the fact that there should not be voices here tells me this is the way that they're speaking. This has to be, or there wouldn't be any voices there.
Right. And to answer the comment too, Courtney Producing is such a deep thinker. I love it. We talked to her before. I'll let you answer to it. I just want to say that I don't think that through the white noise and direct radio voice, I don't think it's manifestation or manipulation. I think it's resonance. Again, stochastic resonance. I think it's a connection with a frequency within the white noise and the emboldening part. Okay.
Well, I believe, Courtney, that we are able to communicate with many things. I think we communicate with spirits. I think there's a possibility that we're communicating with extraterrestrials. I think there's a possibility that we may be even connecting to different dimensions. Yep. To be honest with you, we really don't know what we are communicating with, but it's endless possibilities of what we can be communicating with. I don't think it's just one thing.
Yeah, we need a star 69 box.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, Tony, trace them back. All right, we know where you are now. Camden.
Camden.
You're in Camden. It's fascinating. It's fascinating, the length of the messages and the fact that this can even happen when they're, again, in consciousness we think is involved. They're not hearing us speak the mechanical sound wave that we're producing with the larynx. How are they hearing us? There's so many layers to it, but we don't, and this is the arrogance of us part that we need to steer away from. We don't control the whole process. We don't. And if there's an intelligence, there's free will, there's circumstance, there's situation, there's ingredients to the process. And so there may be instances when it will be better or worse than other times. But I think through the two of our couples and our work, we've replicated, we've reproduced, and we've repeated. And that works both for scientific methodology and shampoo.
That's why it's so great.
But yeah, no doubt, exciting stuff. We'll thank everyone for coming in to take a listen. I'm not even going to scroll through all the people because there's just too many of them. But thank you, everyone, for being here, for taking a listen. And we will keep you up to date on new ideas, thoughts, and challenges that we decide to test next with this, because there are many, many to come. But I just want to say thank you for stopping in and for listening. And we don't have Chris or Audra. Who's going to
I
give the
know. We always have this dilemma.
All
We
right.
think about it right at the end.
Here's my idea. All four of us have to do it, and we do it like a Mad Libs or something. Tony says a couple words, Sharice says a couple words, you say a couple words, I say a couple words, and we all do the closing together. And we have to jump off of where the other person left us off.
Oh, goodness. That's
Yeah.
kind of difficult.
I know.
All right, I'll start. I just want to say thank you for everyone who joined.
Cherie, you're
Entity
next.
Voices Paranormal Evidence. Stay.
Wants it? But he's left with no words.
Yeah. Well,
She said stay.
No, you can't jump to the ending right
But she
away.
already said stay.
She could have. You should have said tuned.
Stay tuned. Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
Stay
see, I
tuned.
told you it was too hard.
Week after week, stay tuned. If you want to get DRVs, if you want to get TRV while you're eating KFC, watching HBO on your ASS, watch EVPE. Boom. Monday nights at 9 on the UNX network. Yeah.
And
Can you give me a name? What's your name?